The 2014 Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series, brought to you by Georgia Public Broadcasting. The Democratic race for state school superintendent.
Good evening. I'm Brenda Wood, anchor and reporter for 11 Alive News here in Atlanta. We'd like to welcome all of our viewers and our live audience to the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series, originating from the studios of Georgia Public Broadcasting here in Atlanta. This is the debate between the Democratic candidates in the race for Georgia school superintendent. So let's meet the candidates right now. They are in alphabetical order. Tarnisha Dent, who is an instructional coach in the Atlanta Public School System. Denise Freeman is a consultant and former member of the Lincoln County Board of Education. Next, Jarita Forehand Mays, a curriculum and instructional specialist for DeKalb County School System. Alicia Thomas Morgan is a member of the Georgia House of Representatives, representing the 39th District since 2003. Rita Robinzine is a DeKalb County Social Studies teacher. And Valerie Wilson, the executive director of the Atlanta Beltline Partnership and a former president of the Georgia School Boards Association. So let's meet our panelists here. Maureen Downey is the education reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Naomi Kitt is a digital journalist focusing on education for WRBL in Columbus, Georgia. And Dale Russell, an award-winning investigative reporter for Fox 5 News in Atlanta. Tonight's debate will consist of 3 rounds. For more information on the rules for each round, you can visit the Atlanta Press Club website at atlantapressclub.org. All right, before we get started tonight, we're going to give each candidate here 30 seconds to give their stance on Common Core. So we're going to go right down the line and start with Tarnisha. You get the first statement.
Thank you. Good evening. Common Core is not the perfect curriculum. However, it has provided us with college and career readiness, a look at the way that we're instructing students and writing across the technical subjects. While I do support Common Core, it does have some areas that we need to work on, such as the focus on our special ed students. I think that Common Core has given students a chance to leave high school and be ready to compete globally. Thank you.
Tarnisha, thank you. Denise, your turn.
I believe that whenever we change our curriculum, we should always involve our professional teachers. That's one thing that has not been done. Common Core, teachers aren't afraid of a vigorous, rigorous curriculum, and Common Core is that. I also believe that teachers work very hard to make sure that our children are successful and ready for college. CCRPI's test scores weren't great this year, but I know that they will improve.
All right. Thank you, Denise. Jarita, your turn.
Yes, I support Common Core, mainly because Common Core is a roadmap. It's not perfect, but it is a starting point for all teachers across the 50 states. It keeps us on board in terms of working towards the same goal. And no matter where a child goes, whether they live in Florida and move to Georgia or from Georgia and move to New York, they're still getting the same content information. But Common Core is not perfect. It leaves out the challenging students, those students that need to be enriched. It also leaves out those students that need help.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, Alicia.
Good evening, and thank you for having us tonight. I'm a strong supporter of Common Core because I'm a strong supporter of high standards for all of our students. As a state legislator, I heard very clearly from educators, from stakeholders around the state that we need to have high standards and we must keep Common Core, and that's why I fought as a state legislator to maintain Common Core in our state. I've also seen it as a mom of a first grade child, and I know what Common Core looks like at the kitchen table. We have to hold all of our students to high standards and know that they will do their very best to meet our high expectations.
Thank you, Alicia. Rita?
Thank you. My issue with Common Core is its implementation. It has not been rolled out correctly, and as state school superintendent, I want to make sure that it will benefit both teachers and students. Common Core will change every 2 years. That's not enough time for its implementation. Businesses take anywhere from 3 to 5 years in order to make a profit. We need to do the same thing with our children. So the implementation of Common Core needs to improve.
All right. Thank you, Rita. And Valerie?
I am a strong supporter. Thank you for having us here tonight. I'm sorry. Thank you. I am a strong supporter of Common Core. I absolutely believe that it is the responsibility of our state to provide our children with the opportunity to realize all of their potentials, gifts, and capacities. And I think Common Core, with its rigor, allows us to do that. It allows us to have high expectations, and it allows us to send children into the world ready to be able to compete globally. Thank you.
Valerie, thank you. Now let's get started in the first round. Each candidate will be asked one question by one of our panelists. Candidates have 60 seconds to answer the question. We're going to begin with Maureen Downey. You get the first question.
And this question is for Ms. Robinzine. On your website, you express concern about using failing schools as a justification to open charter schools. We can debate whether charter schools help or hurt traditional public schools, but didn't the statewide referendum in 2012 really resolve the debate about parents' feelings about it? They overwhelmingly supported the charter school referendum.
In terms of overwhelming support, it was like 50%. It was actually very close. It's actually regional. People inside of Atlanta did, people outside of Atlanta do not and did not like it. What I don't like about charters is taking tax money or public money and giving it to private institutions. I would like to see the state do more in terms of magnet schools. If we have magnet schools, that will also be another choice for our students. So in terms of charter schools, no tax money should be taken away from the public schools. We should not have private companies who are over the charter schools. Everything should be handled, in my opinion, or under the control of the local level, as long as it does not take funding away from public schools.
Naomi Kent, you get the next question for Jarita Mays.
Ms. Mays, on your website, you said that you're committed to no more furlough days and restoring salary step increases. How do you propose to do these things with budgets being tightened in every school district?
One way in which we can do that is we need to take a look at the administrative level to see where we could possibly have cuts there and salvage money there and put that money back into the classroom where the teachers are and with the students where the needs really are.
All right, Dale Russell, you may now ask Alicia Morgan a question.
Ms. Morgan, there's been, if you go back and look through some of the articles that have been written, some controversy over positions that you hold on support for long-term support for school vouchers and tax credits through, that help private tuition. State Senator Vincent Fort said he wanted to take back all the money that he had given you because of your position on these two stances. They both appear to be a little bit at odds with your opponents and perhaps the classic Democratic position. Explain them for us.
Dale, thank you for the question. First and foremost, it's important to note that I'm a mom of a first grader in Cobb County Public Schools, and I'm living this experience every day. I know what it's like to be a mother, to have to look at schools and make sure that I have the best options possible. One of the reasons that I'm a Democrat is because I believe in leveling the playing field. And people with means have always had school choice. You can move into a neighborhood that has great schools. You can send your child to the best private school possible. But if you are poor or stuck in a school that doesn't work for your child, you sometimes don't have options. And so I'm a strong believer, first and foremost, in having the strongest public education system possible. And as state superintendent, I will do everything in my power to make sure that my daughter and 1.6 million students in our state have access to a great education. But I would never stand in the way of a parent making the most important decision that they have to for their child, and that's making sure they have a great education.
We go back to Maureen now. It's now your turn to ask Denise Freeman a question.
Ms. Freeman, I listened to an interview that you did where you declared that we have some of the best teachers in the USA right here in Georgia. They're highly qualified, they're innovative. You cited your own home county. Given all those great teachers and all the innovative things that you think are happening, why aren't our schools in Georgia better? We do not fare well on the SAT. We don't fare well on the ACT. We don't fare well on NAEP. And even on PISA, we are in the bottom of the bottom. So why all those good people, not good results?
Because it's every time something goes wrong, we always blame the classroom teacher, but it's not the classroom teacher who sends money down from Atlanta to make sure that our schools are adequately funded. If we can't buy classroom books, there are classrooms around the state of Georgia where teachers only have a classroom set. And they're falling to pieces. This is unacceptable. In any other place, we would say it's criminal. But here in Georgia, come on. We need to fully fund education. Since 1985, since QBE was established, it has never been fully funded. It has been short by $1 billion each and every year since 1988. So if we want education in Georgia to be the best, to be quality, to make sure that every child graduates, is successful, that they go to college and can't take remedial courses, that they don't have to
all right, we're all out of time now.
You.
All right,
Thank
perhaps
you.
You'll get a chance to finish that thought. Naomi,
you.
your question to Valerie Wilson.
Ms. Wilson, you're positioning yourself as an advocate for reform-minded charter schools. What are those reforms you have in mind for the charter schools across our state?
Let me just begin again by thanking you, Georgia Public Broadcasting, Atlanta Press Club, and our moderator and panelists for being here. And I do appreciate my fellow candidates for their service. I've been in public education for 20 years, working to make a difference for our children. I saved a public school system without cutting teachers, without increasing class sizes, and I worked and led to create the creation of a pre-K program in the city schools of Decatur that brought the attention of President Obama and actually brought him to the city of Decatur. And I fought against the privatization of public schools. I believe that charter schools have a place in public education. Public charter schools and nonprofit charter schools absolutely have a place. But I believe that the hundreds of millions of dollars that we are giving to for-profit charter companies to operate in the state of Georgia is not in the best interest of our children.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Dale, you get the last question in this round for Tanisha Dent.
Ms. Dent, I see on your background and experience, 14 years as an educator, as a former teacher myself, I have a great deal of respect for the work that's done in the classroom. But what I don't see in there is any executive experience or any legislative experience in your particular background. Tell us why it is you think you would be prepared to be superintendent in Georgia.
Well, in the past, our superintendents have had executive and legislative experience, and look where we are in education. What we need as state school superintendent is someone who understands the groundwork, because you will be making decisions for districts across Georgia about what they need, about their policy, and what it takes to run a district. Sometimes people have different experiences. Just because I haven't been an executive or a legislator doesn't mean that I can't make the right decisions for teachers, students, and districts across Georgia. And it is me and my experience that is going to go out in these districts and bring us together, because I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I want to do a lot more listening than I do speaking, so I can find out what's going on and what specific support districts need. And so that's what makes me qualified to be state school superintendent. Thank you for your question.
All right, that concludes our first round. In the second round, each candidate will ask one question to the opponent of their choice. Each candidate will have 30 seconds to ask the question, 60 seconds to respond, and 30 seconds for a rebuttal. By random selection, Denise Freeman gets the first question in this round.
Ms. Wilson, I hear you talk about your school that the president came to visit, but as a former board member, I know that it's the administrators and not board members who lay out those programs. As board members, we just make sure that the funding is there and policies are implemented. So whose idea and how did it come about for that particular school that you highlight, where I think the admission fee is $1,000 per month? Whose idea?
We're out of
and
time, so you've asked the question. You get 30 seconds, 60 seconds to rebuttal, to respond.
Absolutely. The children in the city schools of Decatur, the city schools of Decatur has stepped up to the plate and has provided this pre-K program to the residents of the city of Decatur. And those children who attend our City Schools of Decatur's program are able to do that with very, very minimal fee. But let me just be clear as it relates to the development of that program. City Schools of Decatur, I am very proud of. We had a strategic plan, and a part of that strategic plan, which was developed in collaboration with the school board, the superintendent, administrators, and teachers to create our pre-K program. Absolutely, we believe as a leadership team and a governance team, the school board had to be the entity that sold and believed in that vision to create that pre-K program. So we did lead in the development of that. I was actually very instrumental in that and served on the advisory committee as the board representative because of my leadership in the development of that pre-K program.
All right, we're out of time for your answer, but you do have 30 seconds to rebut.
In the state of Georgia, constitutionally, school board members are to take care of budgets and policies, and it's the job of superintendents to implement policies to create and develop new programs for a school district. So I just wanted to clarify that.
All right. Tarnisha Dent, the second question goes to you.
And my question is for Valerie Wilson as well. In our current TCAS process, teachers are being evaluated, and they're also part of that evaluation system includes SLOs, SGPs, and SGMs. What are your thoughts on that and making that process fair and addressing teachers' concerns as state school superintendent?
Thank you so much for your question, Ms. Dent. I can tell you that I am extremely concerned about the new teacher evaluation system because I believe that that evaluation system is not fair and equitable to teachers. In the city of Decatur, yet again, because that is where my experience has been, we worked very hard for 3 years to develop a teacher evaluation system that had the input of parents, administrators, and teachers. You have to work to make sure that teachers are comfortable with the evaluation process. What I have learned in that process is that teachers don't mind being evaluated. What teachers do want to have is a fair evaluation process. And I believe that the work that we put in provided that. I don't believe this TEKS evaluation system does that, and I think it will have to be closely monitored.
All right, Ms. Dent.
All right, thank you for your answer, Ms. Wilson. However, SLOs, student learning objectives, are tests that are created and will be added to part of that teacher's evaluation. Student growth measures include your SLOs and your EOCT classes. SLOs are for classes without EOCTs, and that is the main concern that teachers have. That process includes the development of tests, and my question was, how would you address that and make teachers more comfortable in that process? Thank you.
All right, Alicia Morgan it's your turn to ask the question of your opponent of your choice.
Thank you. My question is actually for Rita Robinson. Rita, it's known that I have occasionally bucked the Democratic Party when I believe in doing what's in the best interest of kids. And so what I'd like for you to do is to talk about a time that you've bucked the party to do what was in the best interest of kids.
When I ran for this seat, it was because mostly out of fear when I heard that you were running because of your Republican issues that you have pushed in this state. We've become a students first state where you're getting most of your money from Michelle Rhee, who is anti-teacher. You push for the charter amendment, and you say you're not in favor of privatization or making charter schools private. However, that is part of the agenda for the new educational reform. You push for the parent trigger bill. You also push for teachers' evaluations to be tied to test scores. So, as a Democrat, it is my job, and as a teacher, to do what's best for the children of Georgia, to protect education in this state, and to make sure that all public school children get an adequate education without privatization and
we're all out of time now.
Thank you.
All right, let's go back for a rebut from Ms. Morgan.
Ms. Robinson, you're correct. I have been a strong and unapologetic advocate and champion for parents in this state, and it's why the Charter Amendment passed overwhelmingly in many parts of the state. And I've also worked to make sure that parents are empowered at the school level. It's very clear to me that education has become way too politicized, and I will work with anybody, that's Democrats, Republicans, black, white, rural, or urban, to make sure that we do what is in the best interest of kids. Because I know that I only get one shot to educate my 7-year-olds, and as do we have for 1.6 million students in our state, and I'll continue to do that.
We're out of time. No, you don't get, but Rita Robinson, you are living large today because you are next on the list to ask your opponent a question. So you've got 30 seconds.
This one will be for Alicia, and as I stated earlier, you claim that you are against private charters. However, most of your money comes from educational organizations that are in favor of privatizing education. So please tell me how, if you become state school superintendent, you're going to fight against private charters when you're getting paid by companies who push for it.
Rita, I'm so glad you asked that question. First and foremost, 70% of my dollars that come to my campaign come from inside the state of Georgia, from individuals in this state. I am proud to have the support of parents and advocates for children first all over the state of Georgia. It is very clear that I am a strong advocate for public education. There is no such thing as a private charter school in the state of Georgia. Again, we only have nonprofit and public charter schools, and for that I am a strong advocate. And I will continue to do whatever it takes to make sure that we have public school options for all of our kids so that no child has to go into a school that doesn't work for them based on their zip code.
All right, Ms. Robinson?
Ms. Morgan, we don't have private charters today. But based on where you get most of your money, according to Empower Ed, 70% of the majority of your money comes from outside of the state, from people who are in favor of privatizing education. So my issue is that you are in a position to open the door, not today, but tomorrow, for taking more money, just like you did with the vouchers, taking away more money from public schools and giving it to private institutions. Thank you.
Jarita Mays, you may now ask a question of the opponent of your choice.
Thank you. Alicia, my question is for you. And it is concerning the Parent and Teacher Empowerment Act. And those that do not know what that is, that's where if there's a failing school, they have the power to turn their schools into a charter school. And what I would like to know is that because research shows that just by relabeling a school a charter school, it does not show that it becomes a successful school and that the children are being academically successful. So my question is, what are your plans to do to improve the public school system and to promote the public school system so that it will become?
I love the fact that I'm so popular tonight. First of all, again, I'm going to say we have to stop this obsession with charter schools. My record in the legislature is very clear. If you look at the bills that I've introduced, the laws that I've passed in a Republican-controlled legislature, it's all been about public education. The Parent Empowerment Act was not a charter school bill. There were 5 different options that parents in a school, a failing school, could use to turn their school around. I believe that if education is going to work, we have to have every single stakeholder, especially parents, in the driver's seat to make good decisions for their children. And so my plans to improve all of our traditional public schools, to make sure we have a great teacher in every single classroom, that we have parents and community involved, and that we have innovation and technology in our classrooms to make sure we're putting students in the driver's seat. I've got a plan. I want to be your state school superintendent, and I want to make sure that we focus on the 1.6 million students in all of our traditional public schools.
All right, thank you. Ms. Mays, rebuttal?
Yes. I think that the plan needs to be a little bit more to the point in terms of the issues that we're dealing with in education, such as discipline in the classroom, such as lack of leadership being trained through professional development, lack of money and funds for professional development, also having equity across every county, all 159 counties. Every child in the state of Georgia deserves to be educated and to have the best education in the state of Georgia. Also, last but not least, would be where we're talking about accountability, that not only the teacher be accountable for education in Georgia, but every stakeholder, principal, the state school superintendent, every stakeholder, parents. Thank you.
Thank you. And Valerie Wilson, you get the final question in this round.
Thank you very much. Ms. Forehand Mays, as a teacher and an educator, what is your major one criticism of our legislature and what they've done in public education, and what would be your fix for that?
My major issue with legislature would be the fact that they do not spend time in the classroom to get firsthand evidence of what the true issues are, cutting away all the garbage that's surrounded that people think that the issue is, and coming literally into the school buildings, into the classroom, and seeing the issue that is at hand. Children are being failed by our state because we're not funding and giving adequate funding for the state to be able to reach children where they are in terms of where they need help academically. Reading, math, science, and social studies, they all count. We must do something drastic, and we must have a funding that fully funds our education, starting with giving the children what they need first and filling in their end. If we do not do this, we're going to lose children. Technology is lacking in our schools. This is globally. We need to be able to compete with other worlds.
All right, we're out of time. Rebuttal, Ms. Wilson?
Ms. Forehand-Mays, you are absolutely right. We have been shortchanging the children in the state of Georgia for years. Our state legislature, Republican-led state legislature, has been moving hundreds of millions of dollars away from public education to the detriment of our children. And as we continue down this road to privatize public education, and we see it happening with the Republican-led legislature and our opponent that is here with us tonight supporting that legislation. So you are absolutely right. Our children are suffering.
All right. Thank you, candidates. For those of you just joining us, this is the debate between the Democratic candidates for school superintendent here in Georgia. We will now go to our third and final round. In this round, each panelist will get to ask a question to the candidate of their choice, and we'll do that until we run out of time. I will get the opportunity to determine when a rebuttal is appropriate. So, Maureen, again, we're going to begin with you. You get the first question.
Ms. Dent, yesterday was the 60th anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education, the landmark Supreme Court decision that said segregated schools were unconstitutional. However, in the 60 years since Brown, we have seen segregation not by law here in Georgia, but by choice, by housing patterns. So now, if Martin Luther King were to come back today, almost all his namesake schools in the Atlanta metro area are almost completely African American, very little diversity. Is there a role for the state in trying to stop the resegregation of schools, or can we not simply stop housing patterns and where people are choosing to live?
Yes. We can invest in all of our communities across Georgia. That's the first thing that we can do. And yes, you are correct that most of the schools that have Martin Luther King's name are predominantly African American. However, what we need to do as a state, we're operating in silos. The State Department is in Atlanta. There's no collaboration in talking and speaking with communities to work to build a culturally diverse Georgia. That's part of the problem. And as state school superintendent, I want to build Georgia up. I want to take communities that have similar demographics and work with them and show what they're doing so that we can have an expansion and a movement of cultural diversity throughout Georgia. And I do think that we have some counties that don't even have African-American teachers. They have 2 African-American teachers. So we need to work within our state to build the cultural diversity and to build up our communities and get our communities working with our schools and with our State Department so that we can implement plans to build up our communities and have cultural diversity in our schools. Right. Thank you, Maureen, for your question.
Our next question comes from Dale.
Sorry, you threw me there. I thought we were going over here. I would like to go to Ms. Robinson, who you talked about the implementation of the Common Core policy, that it wasn't being rolled out fast enough. What would you do differently?
What I would do as state school superintendent is to make sure that teachers are properly trained for Common Core. What happens when teachers are not properly trained is that when the tests come out or when students are assessed on what they have learned, in many instances they fail, particularly in math. And this is something that is going on in other states. And as state school superintendent, as an educator in the classroom for 24 years, I understand the pressures that teachers have when it deals with testing. I want to make sure that teachers are prepared, that they have the resources that they need, that the funding is there, so that teachers can help students. I do not want Common Core to be used as a way to fire teachers. It's not fair if students are not properly prepared and teachers are not properly trained to do what they can to help students.
All right. Naomi, you may now ask your question.
Ms. Morgan, on your website you've said effective teachers in classrooms are the most important factor to raise student achievement. How do you plan on measuring teacher effectiveness?
Thank you, Naomi. I appreciate that question because I am a proud co-sponsor of our teacher evaluation law. Prior to this law, we've had 180 different tools used in schools to measure the performance of teachers. And so I think the evaluation tool is a strong way of doing that. Number one, it's going to give teachers immediate feedback so they can be treated like the professionals that they are. And we can identify where the challenges are, give them resources in terms of professional development, make sure that we're directing funding in the right places, and ensure that we are providing leaders in the school the information that they need to be effective. At the end of the day, the research says, and we know it from all of the great teachers we've had in our lives, that when we have a great teacher standing in front of our kids, it doesn't matter what their zip code is, it doesn't matter what they look like or what their background is. What matters is what's happening in that classroom and the ability of that teacher to meet those students where they are and take them from where they are to where we need them to be. All right.
Maureen?
I'm going to build on that answer that Representative Morgan gave, but I'm going to direct it to Ms. Mays, my question, which is, you know, I write a blog for the AJC, and teachers describe high school classrooms where kids arrive with second grade reading skills and ninth grade reading skills and advanced reading skills. They have 33 kids in that class, so that's where those kids are. Can any teacher guarantee success for all the children in the class with this differential learning model, given the wide disparity in skills these kids bring?
Actually, thank you. That's an excellent question. That's actually a teacher's nightmare. There is no way possible that you can help every child at that different level. It simply needs to be where we are somewhat grouping children or small classing, giving them small class size so that we can meet the needs of children. Intervention needs to be something that's positive for children, not because they're lagging behind. It's not their fault that they're lagging behind. It's not the teacher's fault. It doesn't matter whose fault it is, and we're not trying to blame anyone. We just simply need to have the answers to be able to meet the children's needs. And that simply means being able to assess them when they come into the school from day one, to find out where they are, and then to make a goal as to set where they are, a midterm goal to see if they've met those goals. And then if they have not met those goals, reinforce, reteach. Teach mastery. We as teachers need to be able to teach mastery, to have that leniency to be able to teach mastery until that child gets what they need to learn in order to be successful at that grade level.
We're out of time.
Thank you.
Dale?
Ms. Freeman, if you were elected superintendent of the schools and you were able to accomplish only one thing during your tenure, what would it be?
Most definitely, and thank you for that question, it would be to get full funding for public education in the state of Georgia. And the reason being, so teachers can raise up to their fullest potential and teach every child in the classroom, so that we could have smaller class sizes, so that we could guarantee that every child from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade would have the opportunity in the state of Georgia not just to graduate, but to graduate successfully, not just to get a diploma, but to get a diploma that would take them anywhere in the world that they needed to go, to any college, any university would be glad to accept them because they have a diploma from the state of Georgia who's at the top of their game. We need right now to stop thinking about just the United States. We need to understand that children who are in the first grade now, we need to start thinking globally.
All right, Naomi?
Ms. Wilson, in your original answer on Common Core, you said that you were a strong supporter of Common Core and that it provides children with the opportunity to succeed. As a supporter, do you see any changes or reforms that need to be made with Common Core standards?
I absolutely do. Thank you for the question. I absolutely do. I think that we need to focus on implementation and appropriate and adequate and effective implementation of Common Core. But I think for any standards that you have, we need to be sure that we are assessing them annually, that we have in place teachers, administrators, parents, assessing the standards and making sure that they are staying relevant. We need to ensure that children are being provided with the best possible opportunity and that we are providing rigor in classrooms every single day for every child, such that we can provide those children with the opportunity to have a successful life as they go out into the world.
All right. Maureen, start back with you.
Representative Morgan, the legislature attempted to rewrite the funding formula as to narrow it to every kid, what every kid needed. Apparently the committee came back with such high numbers, we never heard another word from that committee. In Georgia right now, the local share of what people put into education depends not just on the local ability of the community to raise money, but the local will. Ms. Wilson happens to be from an area where they put a lot of money in education, Decatur City Schools, and they have the results to show it. Do you think the state should be compelling local districts elsewhere to tax themselves higher, to invest more in education? Because right now, the zip code is also tied to what the voters there want to put in out of their own pockets.
Excellent question, Maureen. As a state legislator and a member of the House Appropriations Committee, it is a difficult process to ensure that we are properly funding education. I respect local control, and so I don't think that it's the role of the legislature to compel local districts to raise taxes on their citizens. We have hardworking Georgians, and the last thing we need to do is create another tax that in the legislature that is required by a local district. What we ought to do is all be committed to making sure that we fully fund education, not by some complicated formula, but what's in the best interest of students. I fully support a student-based budgeting process that based on the needs of the child, based on where that child comes from, the needs of the community, and giving flexibility at the school level, giving school leaders the autonomy to make decisions that are in the best interest of the students that they serve.
Dale?
Ms. Dent, you mentioned earlier that in campaigning that you had one mouth and two ears and that you like to listen to people. We all have a basic set of beliefs if we go into the educational system of what we think is going to work and what's not going to work. As you've campaigned throughout the state for this job, what have you heard that has changed your mind about any of these issues?
What I've heard is that, you know, when people meet me, they say, I've never heard of you before. Are you a politician? And one thing I want to say is that this race is about education. And so it's kind of opened my eyes that a lot of things that we do in education are political, and that parents don't understand the power and the opportunities that we have to improve education in Georgia. For instance, I was in Kroger, and a parent and I were talking about curriculum, and I said to him, do you know we can write our own curriculum? And another teacher walked by and couldn't believe that. We have the abilities to write our own curriculum. Georgia has a wealth of knowledge in our classroom and in our schools. And it just surprises me that there is such a disconnect from this office and the communities across Georgia. And I want to change that. And that has been more apparent to me when people ask what's the role of the state school superintendent, when will they see me again? And I want to change that as state school superintendent. Thank you, Dale, for your question.
Naomi.
Ms. Mays, what is the single most factor to student success, and how would you plan on prioritizing that?
The single most factor that raises test scores and helps to make children be successful, believe it or not, research shows unanimously that it is parent involvement. And I advocate as a state school superintendent, as my plan to go in and to educate parents. We have so many parents that are parenting children that do not know how to parent children when it comes to school. They just don't know. We simply need to make it accessible to them so that they do know what's the expectation, to come to PTA meetings, to be a part of their child's education by coming to school. It's no longer a taboo that you have to stay away from the school and it's all up to the teacher and the administrators in that school. It's actually parent involvement. They're the ones that control the children. They're the ones that give the expectation for their child. They're the one that put dreams into their child's mind. We're simply there just to facilitate it. And so I simply just say that parent university or educating parents will resolve most of the problems in our education school system today. Thank you.
All right, Maureen.
Ms. Wilson, parent engagement is great. I interviewed the 22 candidates for the CAB school board, and they're all going to improve parent engagement and get more involved parents. But you know what? If we had really involved parents and they did all this good work for us, we wouldn't have to worry about much here in Georgia. Let's say all the parents are sorry parents, as we say. Can't schools achieve with students without the parent component? Because if we have to count on having great parents, it seems to me that's an iffy proposition in some cases.
Thank you, Maureen. I absolutely agree with you. I think one of the single most important factor in a child being successful is having a teacher in the classroom that is adequately prepared to provide instruction and to raise that child's level of attainment. I believe that we need to provide the professional development that allows teachers to be able to reach children and make the learning that they are providing, make the teaching and the offerings that they are providing relevant to them and their lives. So I absolutely believe that the teacher in the classroom touching that child every single day is the single most important factor.
Dale?
Ms. Robinson, if you, for whatever reason, could no longer be in this race, which one of the candidates here would you support? And tell us why.
It would have to be an educator, because state school superintendent is about educating children. Ms. Freeman has experience in the classroom as well as on the state. She was a school board member as well. Ms. Dent also has experience, as well as Ms. Mays. Any of those ladies would be beneficial, I believe, to finish out the race if I cannot continue, because they understand education, they understand testing, they understand what it's like to not have the resources that you need, to not necessarily have the support that you need, to understand that your job is on the line because of test scores, and yet you don't even get to go to school every day. Your children can't even go to school every day to get the education that they need. Someone who has never been in the classroom does not understand that. And I definitely don't want someone getting their information from a special interest
We are out
group.
of time. All right, Naomi?
Ms. Dent, excuse me, in your comments on Common Core, you said that it was not the perfect curriculum and that there needed to be work with the special education students. How would you plan on doing that?
What I plan on doing, I've been conversing with some special ed teachers around the state. And what we want to do is we want to bring those teachers together by region and listen to some of their concerns against Common Core. And then we want to begin writing some skills, knowledge, and abilities and set those for our special education students and begin writing a curriculum for them. Every time we change curriculum, we have an implementation plan that includes regular ed teachers, and we funnel the special ed teachers in without giving them any support based on the student disability, the IEP. None of that happens. And so that's why my concern is with the special ed, and that's what I plan to do as state school superintendent. The students with disability will no longer be the forgotten population. Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question of Denise Freeman. You said that the one thing that you would like to be known for if you achieve your dream of becoming the state school superintendent, the one thing that you want to accomplish in that role is a greater budget for Georgia schools. That sounds good, but for all of the candidates, I've not really heard a lot of specifics. Can you give me some specific ways in which you would ensure that there is a larger budget for Georgia schools?
One of the main things is austerity cuts. If we could get rid of those would help local school districts tremendously across the state of Georgia. The other thing is to make legislators understand, and we applaud them for this year. They gave us $314 million, so we're only $750 million in the state education budget for this year. They have to understand if we can pay $35,000 a year to house a prisoner, why can't we pay that much money or more to educate Georgia's children? All right, and we have to decide which is more important, housing our people in the prison system or educating our children in our public school system. We have the wherewithal to do it. And you talk about teachers. There is not a better group of professional educators in this country like they are in Georgia. They had furlough days, but they showed up every day and they did their job.
Thank you. All right, Maureen?
Ms. Mays, John Barge has been marginalized by a Republican governor and a Republican legislature, and he's a Republican. Listening to all the Democratic candidates and all they want the legislature to do and give more money to schools, how do you think that you can work with a Republican governor and a Republican legislature who so underfunded schools that a Republican school superintendent is barely speaking to them?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. Currently, due to austerity cuts, we are pegged at a $750 million cut for schools currently for the 2015 fiscal school year. And that saddens my heart. I don't think that it's about Republicans. It's not about Democrats. It's not even about votes, really. It's about our children. It's about America doing the right thing. The state of Georgia coming together, commonly putting aside all isms and schism and looking in the eyes of children and doing what's right for the state of Georgia, for every child who cannot speak for themselves, who wants to be successful in school and in life. But it is us. It is the teachers, the legislators, Republicans, Democrats, everyone's part. Everyone takes a stake in it. How can we go to bed at night knowing that we're not funding our future for our children? How can we sleep? We can't sleep as teachers. I think it's time that America and that Georgia wakes up and hear that there's a cry out there for children.
All right, Dale.
Ms. Morgan, the legislature passed a law that allowed for tax credits for anyone who wanted to donate money, would get tax credits if the money was used for tuition to private institutions within the state. Why do you support that?
I support taxpayers being able to do what they wish with their own tax dollars. Again, and I appreciate the question, Dale, but we've got 30% of our kids who are not graduating from high school in Georgia. 30% of those kids who are not proficient, only 30% of our kids are proficient and when it comes to NAEP in our reading scores. And so we can talk about tax credits and charters and all of these other things. At the end of the day, I'm not concerned about what a school is called. What I'm concerned about is what are the outcomes? How do we make sure that kids are graduating from high school? And I will continue to say that I support parents having the option to choose a school that meets the needs of their children. And I certainly support taxpayers being able to direct funds to whatever nonprofit organization they wish, particularly if it benefits a child.
All right, Naomi.
Ms. Robinson, you said that on your website that you would not let Georgia become a state that's overwhelmed by tests. How do you propose to test standards but not over-test students?
Testing should be used as a barometer for teachers to have an instrument to be able to measure student progress. What we're seeing in this state now with this so-called education reform is that it's going to be used as a way to possibly fire teachers and look at teachers. If you're going to fire teachers based on test scores, then the state of Georgia needs to do all it can to make sure that teachers have everything that they need. One is to restore some of that funding that does go to private schools in the form of tax credits. If we can get that back, then we'll have a lot of the money that we need. I want to make sure that everything is not based on testing, that teachers can teach the way I did before No Child Left Behind was implemented. When you teach to the test, you limit instruction, you limit creativity. America leads the world in innovation.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off. You ran out of time there. Maureen?
Ms. Wilson, in the Republican debate earlier today, the school board candidates, there was really a sort of celebration of local control. Let's, wrestle ourselves free of Common Core and restore local control. But Georgia had local control for decades. No one really paid attention to schools, and as a result of that, we had some of the most mediocre schools in the country. So, can Georgia afford to let 180 school boards, and you were on a school board, can you let school boards run their districts when the track record, the historic track record, is not impressive?
I absolutely believe that we have to allow for local control. Local school board members and local members of communities know their communities better than anyone. I think a prime example of that was our HB 1162 that I fought very hard against. For HB 1162, and while we have heard that HB 1162 was overwhelmingly supported across the state, HB 1162 was not. HB 1162 was given to voters, and it was veiled. The wording in that legislation was misleading.
Can you tell folks what 1162 is?
House Bill 1162 was the legislation that created an independent authorizer for charter schools in the state of Georgia, and that legislation was misleading. Local boards across the state of Georgia tried to talk to our folk to let them know that, but the private lobbying entity that was in place made that impossible for us to do it. But I do believe in local control.
All right. That is the final question in this round. This is all the time we have now, and we move on to our final round, where each candidate will now have 60 seconds for a closing statement. And Rita Robinson, you get to make the first closing statement.
Thank you. Georgia, it is important that you elect a state school superintendent who understands education, who understands testing, who understands how furloughs have hurt students. We are losing quality teachers, good teachers daily because of what this state is doing to my profession. One of my coworkers was Teacher of the Year for Georgia, one of the best teachers in the state. She worked with the State Department to create tests. Her kids had some of the highest test scores in the state, but she had to leave because she had to support her family. We say we want good teachers in the classroom. We say we want good education, but we're not doing enough to make sure that that happens. Elect me, a school teacher, and also an advocate for education, to get the job done. Thank you.
All right. Jarita Mays, it's your turn.
Thank you. What I would like to say is to search your hearts and your minds. Don't think about the Democrats, the Republicans, the nonpartisan. Think of children when you make a vote. When you step into that booth, think of children. We need to make a good future for every child. Every child in all 159 counties count. The voices are us. A state school superintendent needs to be someone who is willing to work with whoever it takes to work with for the sake of a child, to make sure their future is brighter. Please visit my website at JaritaMays.com and give me your concerns. I'm concerned about each and every county. We need to know and start early about the issues that you're having. Every county is different. Even within your own school districts, you have differences and different needs. We simply need to address them together, to put our heads together, to come together as a team and make Georgia go from the bottom to the top in every aspect of education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mays. Tarnisha Den.
Georgia, being state school superintendent shouldn't be your first full-time job in education. This job requires the passion, the commitment, and dedication to improve education for all the students in Georgia. I am a committed educator with over 14 years experience in 3 school districts. And when the lights go down and January comes, I will be the state school superintendent that does the right thing. I will be the one to still do the work when no one is looking. I'm a relationship builder, I'm committed, and I will not sit in the ivory tower to make decisions about education of Georgia. Teachers, I know your plight. I know what you go through when that non-renewal letter comes, and I know what it feels like to have that evaluation hanging over your head. I want to be your state school superintendent to support you and the students of Georgia. So on May 20th, it just makes sense to vote for Dent for state school superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Valerie Wilson.
Education is at a critical juncture in the state of Georgia. The Department of Education is one of our largest agencies. I've led a local school system, the City Schools of Decatur. I led and was president of the Georgia School Boards Association, made up of Republicans and Democrats. I've led a nonprofit agency where I managed a multi-million-dollar program. I won't need on-the-job training to do this work. I know what it means to be concerned about your children. I have a son that I was concerned about every single day. But I know that in this state, we can't afford to create a 2-tiered public education system that looks out for the welfare of some children while leaving the others behind. I want to be your state school superintendent because I will reduce class sizes. I'll restore the budget. I'll end teacher furloughs, and I'll enhance teacher effectiveness. Vote for me for state school superintendent, and I will fight for our children every single day.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Denise Freeman.
For 27 years, I've traveled around the state of Georgia, working with parents and school districts. And as I traveled campaigning for state school superintendent, people said, "It's good to see you again. I'm glad that you're back." So I'm not a newcomer. I've been here fighting for public education for 27 years. I'm asking the people in Georgia to help me to continue to fight, to make sure that every child gets a quality education, to make sure that our schools are fully funded, to not accept excuses. You know what? All we have to do is learn to work together, work hard. It can be done, and together we can accomplish these things to make sure that our children have a bright future. It's not just about living in Georgia. It's about being a global society and being able to work within and without our borders.
All right, thank you, Ms. Freeman. And Alicia Morgan.
Thank you to all who participated in making this event happen, and thank you, Georgians, for watching tonight. My name is Alicia Thomas Morgan, and it would be my honor to serve as your state school superintendent. I'm a proud product of public schools. My daughter is a first grader in Cobb County Public Schools. And as I served in the legislature for 12 years, one thing became very clear to me, that adults have a lobbyist at the state capitol. I want to be the lobbyist, more importantly, the advocate, the champion for parents and children, all 1.6 million students in our public education system. I will work hard every day on your behalf to make sure that every child, no matter where they live, no matter what their zip code, has access to the best education possible. At the end of the day, we have to find it unacceptable that 30% of our kids are not graduating from high school. And you need a state school superintendent who has experience at the state level, who won't need on-the-job training, because my daughter and your children don't have 6 months or 20 years. We only have right now. I'm Alicia Thomas Morgan, and I want to be your state school superintendent.
All right, just in the nick of time, Ms. Morgan, thank you very much. That concludes our debate. We'd like to remind the voters that primary elections will be held this Tuesday, May 20th. We want to give our thanks to the candidates and to our panel of journalists tonight. We'd also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club for arranging tonight's debate. Now, for more information about the Atlanta Press Club and all of the debates that they are hosting this primary election season, you may visit atlantapressclub.org. All the information is there. This debate will be archived there. The debate will also be available on demand at gpb.org. The Atlanta Press Club Louder Milk Young Debate Series is made possible by a donation from R. Charles Loudermilk. I'm Brenda Wood. Thank you for joining us for the Atlanta Press Club and the Loudermilk Young Debate Series. Please stay now with GPB for Call the Midwife, coming up next. Good night, everyone.